प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। मुकां करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंगायते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरं। Hare Krishna. So today we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 7th chapter. And this chapter has 55 verses. So would anyone like to read? If you would like to read, then please raise your hands and then we can start from there. So Krishnan Prabhu can go first. So before we start reading, I humbly request all the other devotees to kindly pay attention, because there are some amazing, very nice questions that come up in this particular chapter, which I will ask at the end of the reading. And let's see if you're attentive enough to catch those questions and answers. So we'll start with Krishnan Prabhu. You can start, Prabhu. Maybe the first 12 verses.
Yeah, I'll start, Prabhu.
Actually, the first 10 verses. 10 verses.
10
Sorry.
verses. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
What Prahlad learned in the womb. Narad Muni said, although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of Asuras, he was the greatest of all devotees. Having thus been questioned by his class friends, the sons of the Asuras, he remembered the words spoken to him by me and replied to his friends as follows. Scroll down. Prahlad Maharaj said, when our father Hiranyakashipu went to Mandarachala mountain to execute severe austerities, in his absence, the demigods, headed by King Indra, made a severe attempt to subdue all the demons in warfare. Alas, as a servant is eaten by small ants, so the troublesome Hiranyakashipu, who always inflicted miseries upon all types of people, has now been defeated by the reactions of his own sinful activities. Seeing this, the demigods, headed by King Indra, arranged to fight the demons. When the great leaders of the demons, who were being killed one after another, saw the unprecedented exertion of the demigods in fighting, they began to flee, scattering themselves in all directions. Simply to protect their lives, they hastily fled their homes, wives, children, animals, and household paraphernalia. Paying no heed to all these, the demons simply fled. The victorious demigods plundered the palace of Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, and destroyed everything with it. Then Indra, the king of heaven, arrested my mother, the queen. As she was being led away, crying in fear like a Kurari captured by a vulture, the great sage Narada, who at that time had no engagement, appeared on the scene and saw her in that condition. Narad Muni said, O Indra, king of the demigods, this woman is certainly sinless. You should not drag her off in this merciless way. O greatly fortunate one, this chaste woman is the wife of another. You must immediately release her. King Indra said, in the womb of this woman, the wife of the demon Hiranyakashipu is the seed of the great demon. Therefore, let her remain in our custody until the child is delivered, and then we shall release her. Narad Muni replied, the child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. Indeed, he is a great devotee, a powerful servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Krishnan Prabhu. So Nupur, you can go next. Anyone else would like to read? Please raise your hands. You can read the next 10 verses, Nupur. We need 3 more readers.
Okay, when the great saint Narad Muni had thus spoken, King Indra, being respectful to Narad's word, immediately released my mother. Because of my being a devotee of the Lord, all the demigods circumambulated her. Then they returned to their celestial kingdom. Prahlad Maharaj continued, the great saint Narad Muni brought my mother to his ashram and assured her of all protection, saying, my dear child, please remain at my ashram until the arrival of your husband. After accepting the instructions of Devarishi Narada, my mother stayed in his care without fear from any direction as long as my father, the king of the Daityas, had not become free from his severe austerities. My mother, being pregnant, desired the safety of her embryo and desired to give birth after her husband's arrival. Thus she stayed at Narad Muni's ashram, where she rendered service unto Narad Muni with great devotion. Narad Muni delivered his instructions both to me, who was within the womb, and to my mother, who was engaged in rendering him service because he is naturally extremely kind to the fallen souls. Being in a transcendental position, he gave instructions on religion and transcendental knowledge. These instructions were free from all material contamination. Because of the long duration of time that has passed, and because of her being a woman and therefore less intelligent, my mother has forgotten all those instructions. But the great sage Narad blessed me, and therefore I could not forget them. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear friends, if you can place your faith in my words, simply by that faith, you can also understand transcendental knowledge just like me. Although you are small children, similarly, a woman can also understand transcendental knowledge and know what is spirit and what is matter. Just as the fruits and flowers of a tree in due course of time undergo six changes birth, existence, growth, transformation, dwindling, and then death the material body, which is obtained by the spirit soul under different circumstances, undergoes similar changes. However, there are no such changes for the spirit soul. Atma refers to the Supreme Lord or the living entities. Both of them are spiritual, free from birth and death, free from deterioration, and free from material contamination. They are individual, they are the knowers of the external body, and they are the foundation or shelter of everything. They are free from material change, they are self illuminated, they are the cause of all causes, and they are all pervading. They have nothing to do with the material body, and therefore they are always uncovered. With these transcendental qualities, one who is actually learned must give up the illusory conception of life in which one thinks, I am this material body and everything in relationship with this body is mine. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nupur. Lekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So we are reading 10 verses, right?
10 verses, yes.
Okay, Hare Krishna. An expert geologist can understand where there is gold and by various processes can extract it from the gold ore. Similarly, a spiritually advanced person can understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body, and thus, by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. However, as one who is not expert cannot understand where there is gold, a foolish person who has not cultivated spiritual knowledge cannot understand how the spirit exists within the body. The Lord's 8 separated material energies, the 3 modes of material nature, and the 16 transformations, the 11 senses, and the 5 gross elements like earth and water. Within all these, the one spiritual soul exists as the observer. Therefore, all the great acharyas have concluded that the individual soul is conditioned by these material elements. There are 2 kinds of bodies for every individual soul, a gross body made of 5 gross elements and a subtle body made of 3 subtle elements. Within these bodies, however, is the spirit soul. One must find the soul by analysis, saying, this is not it, this is not it. Thus, one must separate spirit from matter. Sober and expert persons should search for the spirit soul with minds purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection with and distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. Intelligence can be perceived in three states of activity: wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. The person who perceives these three is to be considered the original master, the ruler, the supreme personality of Godhead. As one can understand the presence of the air by the aromas it carries, so, under the guidance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can understand the living soul by these three divisions of intelligence. These three divisions, however, are not the soul. They are constituted of the three modes and are born of activities. Through polluted intelligence, one is subjected to the modes of nature, and thus one is conditioned by the material existence. Like a dreaming state in which one falsely suffers, material existence, which is due to ignorance, must be considered unwanted and temporary. Therefore, my dear friends, O son of the demons, your duty is to take Krishna consciousness, which can burn the seed of fruitive activities artificially created by the modes of material nature and stop the flow of the intelligence in wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In other words, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, his ignorance is completely dissipated. Of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for that Supreme Lord develops. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, and in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra and Guru.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Lekha Mataji. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, maybe you can finish off the chapter, Prabhu.
Okay, bro. One should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his localized representation as the Paramatma, who is situated in the core of every living entity's heart. Thus, one should offer respect to every living entity according to that living entity's position or manifestation. By these activities, as mentioned above, one is able to cut down the influence of the enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. And when thus situated, one can render service to the Lord. In this way, one surely attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnations for the performance of various pastimes, his hair stands on end on his body. Tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transcendental jubilation. When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation, and he offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, he becomes careless of social etiquette and loudly chants like a madman, Hare Krishna, O my Lord, O Master of the universe. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes and because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Because of his intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burnt to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, by the transcendental bliss realized from constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the Asuras, immediately begin meditating upon and worshipping the super soul within everyone's heart. O my friends, sons of the Asuras, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his super soul feature always exists within the cores of the hearts of all living entities. Indeed, he is the well wisher and friend of all living entities, and there is no difficulty in worshipping the Lord. Why then should people not engage in his devotional service? Why are they so addicted to unnecessarily producing artificial paraphernalia for sense gratification? One's riches, beautiful wife and female friends, one's sons and daughters, one's residence, one's domestic animals like cows, elephants, and horses, one's treasury, economic development, and sense gratification. Indeed, even the lifetime in which one can enjoy all these material opulences are certainly temporary and flickering. Since the opportunity of human life is temporary, what benefit can these material opulences give to a sensible man who has understood himself to be eternal? It is learned from Vedic literature that by performing great sacrifices, one may elevate himself to the heavenly planets. However, although life on the heavenly planets is hundreds and thousands of times more comfortable than life on earth, the heavenly planets are not pure, nirmalam, or free from the taint of material existence. The heavenly planets are also temporary, and therefore they are not the goal of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, has never been seen or heard to possess inebriety. Consequently, for your own benefit and self realization, you must worship the Lord with great devotion, as described in the revealed scriptures. A materialistic person thinking himself very advanced in intelligence continually acts for economic development. But again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, he is frustrated by material activities, either in this life or in the next. Indeed, the results one obtains are inevitably the opposite of those one desires. In this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. A living entity desires comfort for his body and makes many plans for this purpose. But actually, the body is the property of others. Indeed, the perishable body embraces the living entity and then leaves him aside. Since the body itself is ultimately meant to become stool or earth, what is the meaning of the paraphernalia related to the body, such as wives, residences, wealth, children, relatives, servants, friends, kingdoms, treasuries, animals, and ministers? They are also temporary. What more can be said about this? All this paraphernalia is very near and dear as long as the body exists. But as soon as the body is destroyed, all things related to the body are also finished. Therefore, actually, one has nothing to do with them, but because of ignorance, one accepts them as valuable. Compared to the ocean of eternal happiness, they are most insignificant. What is the use of such insignificant relationships for the eternal living being? My dear friends, O sons of the Asuras, the living entity receives different types of bodies according to his previous fruitive activities. Thus, he is seen to suffer with reference to his particular body in all conditions of life, beginning with his infusion into the womb. Please tell me, therefore, after full consideration, what is the living entity's actual interest in fruitive activities, which result in hardship and misery? The living entity who has received his present body because of his past fruitive activity may end the results of his actions in this life, but this does not mean that he is liberated from bondage to material bodies. The living entity receives one type of body, and by performing actions with that body, he creates another. Thus, he transmigrates from one body to another through repeated birth and death because of his gross ignorance. The four principles of advancement in spiritual life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my dear friends, follow in the footsteps of devotees without desire, fully depend upon the disposition of the Supreme Lord, worship Him, the Super Soul, in devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the soul and super soul of all living entities. Every living entity is a manifestation of its energy in terms of the living soul and the material body. Therefore, the Lord is the most dear, and He is the supreme controller. If a demigod, demon, human being, yaksha, gandharva, or anyone within this universe renders service to the lotus feet of Mukunda, who can deliver liberation, he is actually situated in the most auspicious condition of life, exactly like us, the Mahajans headed by Prahlad Maharaj. My dear friends, O sons of the demons, you cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming perfect Brahmanas, demigods, or great saints, or by becoming perfectly good in etiquette or vast learning. None of these qualifications can awaken the pleasure of the Lord, nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to Him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a show. My dear friends, O sons of the demons, in the same favorable way that one sees himself and takes care of himself, take to devotional service to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present everywhere as the super soul of all living entities. O my friends, O sons of demons, everyone, including you, the yakshas and rakshasas, the unintelligent women, Shudras and cowherd men, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living entities can revive his original, eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life as explained by all the revealed scriptures. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, for so nicely and slowly and with so much devotion reading these verses. Before we start the discussion, I'd like to seek the blessings of each and every one of you, especially Krishnan Prabhu and Kameshwar Prabhu. And with that, I think we can start. So this chapter, just to give some context, so this is Prahlad Maharaj instructing his classmates about the secrets and the jewels of devotional service. So there are so many questions that are answered in this particular chapter. So I'll just quickly ask the questions, and let's try to recall and reflect what we just read. So one of the questions that he answers is how to be happy. Does anybody remember the answer? How to be happy in this world? If you want to be happy, what should you do? And what should you not do?
We should
So
not
the
purposefully seek happiness.
Yes, very nice, Lekha Mataji. Thank you so much. So the verse is, so verse is 42, 7:42. So I'm going to go to that verse, and then we'll read the purport as well. Let me enable the purport. Okay, 42. So this is the verse which actually tells us the secret of how to be happy in this world. So the verse goes like this. In this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. So the purport is also very nice. I'll just read a little bit. Every conditioned soul is bound by the laws of material nature, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvashaha. Everyone has achieved a certain type of body given by material nature according to the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm going to skip a little bit and then read from here. Everyone begins his activities with some plan and ambition, but actually, from the beginning of one's plan to the end, one does not derive any happiness. On the contrary, as soon as one begins acting according to his plan, his life of distress immediately begins. Therefore, one should not be ambitious to dissipate the unhappy conditions of life, for one cannot do anything about them. Ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Although one is acting according to false ambitions, he thinks he can improve his material conditions by such activities. The Vedas enjoin that one should not try to increase happiness or decrease distress, for this is futile. Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovidaha. One should work for self-realization, not for economic development, which is impossible to improve. Without endeavor, one can get the amount of happiness and distress for which he is destined, and one cannot change this. Therefore, it is better to use one's time for advancement in the spiritual life of Krishna consciousness. One should not waste his valuable life as a human being. It is better to utilize this life for developing Krishna consciousness without ambitions for so-called happiness. Does anybody want to share any reflections or thoughts on this particular verse? So should we stop seeking happiness then? Is this a very practical verse? Yes, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, I'm assuming I also was thinking the same question you asked. So I am assuming that it says after the Bhagavad Gita verse that we read about balancing. So is it, am I right? Like after we invest our time, our energy in like work, sleep, eating, and the verse that is there. So apart from
Yes.
that, we should not endeavor, because otherwise, what is the difference between, fulfilling the responsibility and looking for happiness? Because ultimately, if we have to fulfill, say, in our grihastha ashram, we have to work, and we are, kind of, we have that responsibility, and happiness sometimes will come as part of like a byproduct as a result. So
Yes.
so in a way there will be endeavor also, because that happiness will make us maybe distracted sometimes, and there will be more endeavor to seek more. But where should we draw the line? Every time should we keep reminding ourselves?
So I think you answered, yeah, I think you answered your question yourself, Prabhu. So the key is to keep reminding ourselves that the more you seek happiness in this material world, the more you're starting the path of distress. Because, of course, we have to definitely follow our dharma and ashram and do the basic needs of whatever has to be done, you know. But beyond that, to become more ambitious and strive for economic development, and I want this, I want this, I want to achieve this, I want more than what you are meant to do. That is the beginning of the path of distress. So definitely do the needful, whatever is needed at your level. And if you have some needs, definitely try to address them, satisfy them, but don't go beyond that, is my understanding. Does anybody else want to share anything on this? Krishnan Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, the one, I agree with what you said, and one additional way of looking at it is that happiness is our essential true nature at all times. Of course, we don't realize it and we don't understand it. And
Yes.
any experience that we get, be it success or failure, is um, is is God's gift to us. And if we take everything as God's gift, then obviously this is theoretical, and to realize this will take lifetimes. But once we realize it, we will be in a perpetual state of happiness, because we will not associate our activities or our endeavors towards towards material activities, which in the material sense will bring us happiness. We will focus all our energies towards the service of the Supreme Lord, always. In India, obviously this is being very idealistic, but yeah, just in the ideal case.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, that also makes sense. This is a nice way of looking at it. So the next question I have about, someone else raised their hands. Lekha Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, so I have a few questions. So how do we know that what is the needful?
Yeah, I'll come to that, Mataji. I have some slides prepared, but I
Okay.
just want to reflect on a few verses here, and then we'll go into more deeper understanding of these verses. So the next question I have is how to satisfy the Lord. This also comes in this chapter. Does anybody remember? There's a verse which clearly says how we can satisfy the Lord. Anybody remembers? Towards the end, what Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu was reading. Okay.
Hare Krishna,
I'm going to...
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, it
Who's this?
says on Ritesh.
Hare Krishna, Ritesh. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, it says unflinching and unalloyed devotion to the Lord only, nothing else.
Yes. So let me go to it's actually verse 51. Let's see. Okay. So this is exactly, Prabhu. Unflinching, unalloyed devotion to him. Wonderful. Thank you, Ritesh Prabhu. So I'll just read this verse. It's a very powerful verse. And it also says what you can do to not please the Lord. So, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, you cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming perfect Brahmanas, demigods, or great saints, or by becoming perfectly good in etiquette or vast learning. So this is important, because many times we think that if we become perfect Brahmanas, following all the rules, the rituals, everything, then we can please the Lord. But here this verse, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that is not the case. Or if we strive to go to the heavenly planets, become the best of the demigods, even then it's not possible. Or if you become great saints, or by becoming perfectly good in etiquette or vast learning, you could memorize the entire Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, still that does not please the Lord. None of these qualifications can awaken the pleasure of the Lord. So what? I mean, it's really interesting, right? So nor by charity. Okay, give a lot of charity. That also doesn't please the Lord. Lot of austerity. Does that please the Lord? No. Lot of sacrifice. No. Cleanliness or even vows. None of these things please the Lord. The Lord is pleased, as Ritesh Prabhu said, only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a show. So the purport is also interesting. I'll just read a little bit. Prahlad Maharaj concludes that one can become perfect by serving the Supreme Lord sincerely by all means. Material elevation to life as a Brahmana, demigod, rishi, and so on are not causes for developing love of Godhead. But if one sincerely engages in the service of the Lord, his Krishna consciousness is complete. I'll stop here. Does anybody have any reflections on this verse? So it is extremely important to be able to serve the Lord. So if one sincerely engages in the service of the Lord, his Krishna consciousness is complete. And in the verse it is said, if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a show. So my next question, which is also one of the verses, is how to get disentangled from material life. Does anybody remember? How to get disentangled from material life? Okay, so this one is verse 29. I'm going to go to the verse. Sorry. Yeah, this is the verse. So of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. So here it is mentioned that the one personally explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, has personally explained and it is accepted by him, that is considered all perfect. And that process is the performance of duties by which love of the Supreme Lord develops. So here Srila Prabhupada immediately goes to the Bhagavad Gita because those are the words. As we all know, Bhagavad Gita is the words of Krishna, Bhagavatam is the actions of Krishna, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is the heart of Krishna. So here in this verse, the words of Krishna, because it's personally explained and accepted by Krishna, are stressed. And Srila Prabhupada immediately in the purport also mentions, among the linking processes that elevate from bondage to material contamination, the one recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be accepted as the best. That process is clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This process is the best because the Lord assures, Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. There is no need to be worried, for the Lord himself assures that he will care for his devotee and save him from the reactions of sinful activities. Material bondage is a result of sinful activity. Therefore, since the Lord assures that he will dissipate the results of fruitive material activities, there is no need to be worried. Does anybody have any thoughts or reflections on this verse before we go to the next question?
So, Prabhu, I have just one question. So, whatever we read
Yeah.
in the 51st verse, all those which does not, which can be just a show, if they are not
Yeah.
sincere devotional service, that means by this verse, if those duties are done and doing those, the love for Supreme Lord develops, then that is okay, right?
Yes. So you have to harmonize what you do in this world with the spiritual world. Like if you harmonize both, right, then you are developing love for the Supreme Lord. I'll come to this because when Arjuna was actually fighting the war, he had actually abandoned his Kshatriya Dharma and his Kula Dharma. Those were his kind of two dharmas that he was fighting with. Should he take up the Kula Dharma? Should he abandon the Kula Dharma or the Kshatriya Dharma? So Krishna says, abandon both those things and just fight the war for me. So even though Krishna said that, he still had to take up one of the dharmas. He had to take the Kshatriya Dharma because he had to take the bow and fight. But even though he took that, he knew now that he was doing it for Krishna. He was doing it as a service for Krishna. So even though he was doing a duty, that performance of duty developed more love for Krishna. Does that make sense, Prabhu? I think it's just exactly what you're saying, but I'm just
Yes,
putting it in a
Prabhu.
different.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
So it's not that we get rid of all our dharmas. If I'm supposed to be a scientist, it's not that I just get rid of that, but somehow use that in a way and harmonize it so that it increases your love for Krishna. And if you're thinking, oh, how can I use my science knowledge in the service of the Lord? Pray to Krishna, he will give you the intelligence to use it in the service of the Lord. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. This one is just a yes or no question. Does a materialistic person's desires ever get fulfilled? The verse also gives the answer, and the purport also, Prabhupada starts with the answer. What do you think, Kameshwar Prabhu? Does a materialistic person's desires ever get fulfilled? Sorry, somebody raised their hands. Oh, I think Nitya raised her hand. Haribal, you want to say something?
No, it's okay. We can move on. We'll talk later.
No, go ahead. Sorry,
It
I
was-
didn't realize that.
It's okay. It was the previous, verse 51 only. I was just thinking, the devotional service must be unflinching and unalloyed, right? And then we also see that in the Bhagavatam verse, ahetuki aprakriti, right?
Yayatma Suprasita.
Yeah, Atma Suprasitati. So such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted.
Yes.
I mean, this is like a very tall order, right? To be a lot of this, unalloyed, unmotivated, uninterrupted, and unflinching. Like what is the hope for this is like a pure devotee standard, right?
Yeah. Not necessarily, but go on. Ask your finish your train of thought.
Question is how can we practically apply this?
The only way, the simplest and the most easiest way to apply this is to constantly be in the association of devotees, either through Vapu or if Vapu is not available, especially through Vani, because that will constantly help you understand and keep on reminding you, and I think it came up in Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu's discussion also, because if you keep on having this association all the time, then automatically your bhakti will be uninterrupted. It will not be unalloyed. Even if it is unalloyed, even if it is alloyed, because of the association, that particular devotee or that sadhu sangha will keep on reminding you that, hey, this is wrong, and just in that association, you'll be reminded of the right thing to do, and it will become unalloyed over a period of time. That is my immediate thought that comes to my mind. But if Kameshwar Prabhu or Krishnan Prabhu or anyone else has any thoughts, please share.
So I thought that unalloyed meaning that unalloyed meaning I thought was mixing the process with for material gains. For example, we chant and then we internally have a desire to ace the interview or get another
Yeah.
house, things
Yeah.
like that. Or maybe have maybe there's somebody who is sick and then make them better or things like that. Isn't that
Yeah. No, so that definitely, so practicing bhakti to get something from bhakti. Okay, so that I have, again, I'll come to that. I have slides for that, but please keep this question in your mind because I will address that. Okay, so yeah, definitely I will come to that. There's just one more question and then we'll go to some more discussion points. So my question was, does a materialistic person's desire ever get fulfilled? This also comes up in one of the verses. Does a materialistic person's desires ever get fulfilled?
Of course, I mean the Lord says that He fulfills it. The Lord as Paramatma sanctions it, and then we know that the Prakriti facilitates it. It's says that
materialistic desires. Does a
yeah,
materialistic person's desires ever get fulfilled?
I think
At
so.
one point it says that never be happy, right? Even though whatever we
Yes.
do, we
But
will
it
never
did
be happy.
it gets fulfilled, whether we're happy or not. I think
Okay.
so.
So let's read this verse. A materialistic person, thinking himself very advanced in intelligence, continually acts for economic development. But again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, he is frustrated by material activities, either in this life or in the next. Indeed, the results one obtains are inevitably the opposite of those one desires. In fact, the results that we get, the material desires that we have and the results that we get are, according to this verse, opposite of one's desires. And Srila Prabhupada starts the purport by saying, no one has ever achieved the results he desired from material activities. On the contrary, everyone has been frustrated again and again. Therefore, one must not waste his life in such material activities for sensual pleasure, either in this life or in the next. So many nationalists, economists, and other ambitious persons have tried for happiness individually or collectively, but history proves that they have all been frustrated. In recent history, we have seen many political leaders work hard for individual and collective economic development, but they have all failed. This is the law of nature as clearly explained in the next verse. So does this shed some light? Anybody wants to share anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Krishna Prabhu, please.
So the obviously, as Mataji said, the material activities or the material desires are probably fulfilled by the Lord, but the eventual goal of those material desires is probably happiness, which is not achieved.
Yes.
And so because we are looking for happiness in these impermanent things, and and not in the right, we're not looking for it in the right place.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we have seen this, right? So on the contrary, everyone has been frustrated again and again. So we see like cricketers or Bollywood actors, actresses, they become depressed, they become frustrated again and again because, yeah, sorry, Vishal Prakash Prabhu, go ahead.
No, please continue. I can say after.
Go ahead. That's all. Yeah, I just wanted to say that the more you have desires, there is no end to it. You keep trying and trying and trying, and you get more and more and more frustrated. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, Vishal Prakash Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just hearing. I don't know if any of you have heard of this. He's called Jordan Peterson, and he's a psychologist. So very recently, he was talking about happiness coming out of hedonism, like hedonistic happiness. So he was saying that uh, the the pursuit, like if I ask my friends, like I at one point of time we used to have a discussion, like when we were like 2021, and then we like what is the purpose of life? What do you think? And then a lot of us answered that it was to be happy, and then everything else was in pursuit of happiness. So even if it was happiness, right? Like it was in terms of trying to find items which give us pleasure, and then that in turn would give us happiness. And I feel like that's exactly what 41, like verse 41 and 42 talk about. That that it's not it's not that happiness is the problem. It's that hedonistic happiness where like you're trying to gain happiness out of things which give you pleasure, like materialistic pleasure, which is the problem. um and like this is not an this is not an idea which we came up by ourselves either. Like capitalism has a big role to play, where they keep selling you these things that if you buy a particular product you will be happy. I'm reminded of like those tea ads which we had in India, where like Zakir Khan's playing the tabla, and then he just like drinks a sip of tea, and then he says Vataj, like sit, like by drinking this tea you will get that feeling that you're at Taj Mahal. Like I was reminded of that. So I was there's another thing which I wanted to mention. When like when we talk about like this pursuit of happiness, like that when I used to think, or whatever, like most of my friends used to think that the goal of life is to be happy. And then like there's this one of Jordan Peterson quotes which I'm reminded of. He said that the suffering that life entails can rapidly make a mockery of the idea that happiness is the proper pursuit of an individual. Basically, you know I you think that the point of life is to be happy, but then like when you start thinking of this, and you encounter the smallest of the smallest of uh, obstructions, right? You feel that you're a failure, because your goal was to be happy and you failed at it. So hence, like not only are you unhappy right now, but you also have this feeling that you failed to achieve your goal. Yeah, so that's what I had to say.
So not only are you unhappy right now, but you're unhappy because you failed to achieve your goal.
Yeah, the goal was to be happy, right? So
The goal was to be happy, and it is a very selfish goal, correct? It is not
yeah,
so because there's no purpose, and you just want to satisfy your own senses, and that ultimately leads to frustration and distress. Is that
like
correct?
sums up 41 and 42 to get together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu. So now I'll just share a few slides on this particular chapter that I got from listening to some lectures. So first of all, the context of this particular chapter, so this is from Nupur. So we are in the fourth level of conversation. So Srila Vyasadeva actually talks about the first 5 verses. The first 3 verses are the preface to Srimad Bhagavatam. 4th and 5th are the intro to Srimad Bhagavatam. And within that, we have the conversation between Suta Goswami and the sages of Naimisharanya. And within that is the Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit conversation. And within that, this particular 7th canto is the conversation between Narad Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj. So that is the conversation that we are hearing right now. So that's why sometimes in one verse it's said me. So me is actually Narad Muni. Narad Muni telling that I actually instructed Prahlad Maharaj when he was in the womb of Kayadu, right? So now with that, So there are three types of problems. So in one of the verses, it comes the real problem of life. The real problem of life, according to the verse, is repeated birth and death, repeated birth and death. So now, from a practical viewpoint, the three problems that we face, has anybody faced any problem in the last, let's say, 1 week or 2 weeks or the last 1 month that anybody wants to share? Any issues or any, yeah, somebody's writing. Any problems? Yes, Lekha Mataji?
I got laid off last Friday as a part of company restructuring. So that I think is the most updated problem in my life.
Oh, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing, Mataji. We'll towards the end, we'll all pray for you, and everything will work out in the end. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu is saying we are having a wonderful time. That's even if you're having a wonderful time, it's just a matter of time before you get some problems in this world. So once when Radhanath Maharaj was giving class, one person went at the end of the class and spoke to Maharaj personally, and he said, Maharaj, it's a very pessimistic view that you're projecting. I'm very happy, everything is going my way, and you're saying that there's so many problems in this world, blah blah blah, and so on. So within a few days, that person got so many problems that he again went back to Radhanath Maharaj, and he said that, Maharaj, I'm sorry that I said that the other day, but after I said that, I got so many problems, and now I realize that whatever you said makes sense. So if you think you're happy, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time in this material world before you get some problem or the other. So yeah, we will definitely pray for you, Lekha Mataji. So now I'll talk about three types of problems that we typically face. The first type of and we'll connect it to three different pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam. The first type of problem is when we make some mistakes, and that could lead to bigger problems. So this is kind of understandable, right? So we make a mistake and that leads to bigger problems. So the example here is Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj, of course, he made some mistake. He put a dead snake around Shamik Rishi and he was cursed and so on. So he made some mistake, but that led to bigger problems. So what is the lesson? The lesson is that we have, so let's say we made a mistake. We have to forgive ourselves first. We have to forgive ourselves, otherwise there will be no closure. We have to forgive ourselves. Why? So that we can give ourselves to Krishna. So that is the lesson that we learn from this particular pastime. The next type of problem that we face is we didn't do any mistake, but others caused problems to us. Has anybody experienced this? So we didn't do any mistake, everything was going fine, but suddenly something happened and others caused problems to us. Any examples anybody wants to share?
Prabhuji, this has happened to me where I was just driving and somebody changed their lane and they hit my car a few months ago.
So something similar happened yesterday also with the Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu's car, very similar, I think. So this is a classic example of that. We didn't do any mistake, and something else that some other person did can cause so many problems to us. An example of this from the Srimad Bhagavatam is, can anybody think of a famous pastime of Srimad Bhagavatam which illustrates this? That the beauty of the Bhagavatam is that anything that is relevant right now, we can actually derive a pastime or a story from the Bhagavatam and derive some lessons also. So what is one story that comes to your mind? All of you know this pastime, where that individual did not do any mistake, but suddenly something happened.
So Gajendra?
Yes, thank you, Krishna Prabhu. So Gajendra is the pastime that I was thinking. So Gajendra, so what happened? So he was like a royal king, and then he was happily doing things. He's thinking that nothing can come in my way. I'm just very happy. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a crocodile captured him, right? A huge problem happened, caused by someone else outside us. So what is the lesson that we learn in this particular pastime? What is the deeper lesson that we learn in this pastime, which actually helps us? I'll just, one person can answer and then we can.
Actually, like when such things happen where out of nowhere, out of no mistake of ours and out of nowhere, suddenly we get face some problems. It is to be understood that it's like a destiny at our like and there is some learning by which there is a learning from the event that we are supposed to be thinking about what to learn from that particular incident, and and also be grateful that whatever has happened, it could have been much worse, and because of Krishna's mercy, it has been reduced to a small token.
Okay. So in this particular case of Gajendra, thank you. So that is what Nitya is saying is that think of it as destiny that was meant to happen, and take the lesson and move on, right? That's what you're saying, basically. So in the case of Gajendra, he didn't do any mistake. He got caught by this crocodile, and then what did he do? So the ultimate lesson is, so the problems that come in such cases, do not think of them as obstacles. If you think of them as obstacles, then you'll get depressed. But you should think of them that they are the way to Krishna, which is exactly what Gajendra did. Even though that obstacle came, he tried to solve it himself. He got more frustrated, and then he realized that this obstacle can lead me to Krishna. How it can lead you to Krishna is something that you have to process yourself, or reach out to, Shiksha Gurus, Diksha Gurus, and so on. But those obstacles can be a way to Krishna. So that is the lesson that we learn here. And the most difficult type of problem is the problem where we do good to someone, or we are doing some good activities, and that causes others to trouble us. Can you think of an example of this, where we are doing something good, but someone else is, causing trouble to us because of that activity?
Ambarish Maharaj. I'm not sure.
Ambarish Maharaj, yeah. How, Prabhu? Can you elaborate a little bit?
I mean, he broke his fast with little water because he was doing good. He had to.
But he was doing good for whom? For himself, right? I'm talking about doing good for others.
No, he was doing for his entire kingdom, right?
Entire kingdom. The whole, Yagya was for the entire kingdom. Yeah.
And that caused Durvasa Muni to trouble him.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I was not thinking of this, but yeah, that also fits in. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Sundar.
And Prithu Maharaj,
Prithu Maharaj. How, Prabhu?
he's doing yajnas, interact with him and stop and try to steal the horse.
Yeah. But were the yagyas for himself or for others?
He's doing for others.
Yeah. Okay. That also satisfies. Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? Sundar Mataji?
I was going to say the same thing, Prithu Maharaj. That's what was my...
It's so interesting that none of you thought of Prahlad Maharaj, which is the pastime that we are discussing right now. So Prahlad Maharaj was actually doing good by becoming a devotee and selflessly instructing his classmates, making them a devotee and so on. And that caused him so much problems, right? So the whole gist of this particular pastime is that he was doing so much good, but still he was facing with more and more and more. All that he had to do was just stop doing the devotional activities and he would have been very happy. If he had just given up devotional service, he would have been very happy materially, right? So what motivated Prahlad Maharaj to continue doing that, knowing that he would be, hurt, or at least the way we think of getting hurt. So why we practice bhakti? For something physical or peace of mind? So why do we practice bhakti? Is it for something physical, or you can say, oh, I want some peace of mind or something like that? So Prahlad Maharaj, he could get anything physical, anything material from his father if he had just given up bhakti. Or he could have also gotten peace of mind, right? Also peace of mind if he had just given up bhakti. Are you all following? So what was Prahlad Maharaj's motivation for practicing bhakti? Anybody wants to take a guess? If he had just given up devotion, he would have been happy. Anything material he would have
Actually,
gotten. Or,
yeah,
yes,
his
Prabhu,
motivation is only to please Krishna. Only not to please him.
The
Irrespective
only
of his-
motivation to
is
please
to please
Krishna. Okay. Anyone else? It's just slightly, you're almost there. What else? Only
He's
to, yeah.
compassionate for his fellow demons who are misguided.
His
So
compassion. Yeah, his compassion. All of you are right. Compassion, his, he wanted to please Krishna. Anything else? So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says in this context and in several other contexts also, that he had realized that Krishna's power to heal is greater than the world's power to hurt. He was absolutely convinced by that. So how much ever this world troubles us, how much ever it hurts us, he had faith that Krishna's power to heal is much higher than that. Okay. So there are three different solutions, you can say, or three different situations where Krishna's power to heal is greater than the world's power to hurt. Yeah, this is Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's quote. So the peace of mind, so there are three different, so let's say I'm going through so many difficulties right now, and I just want some peace of mind. I just want some peace in life. So what would you do? Is there any, this will actually give us a three-level understanding of this. So that's why I wanted to. So let's say I'm facing one problem after another, it's just hitting me hard and hard. Let's say you're a materialist, right? So what would you do? What is the first thing that you would do? How would you get that peace of mind? Just think, just be imaginative. Don't think from a spiritual perspective, just from a material perspective. Let's say somebody is going through lot of difficulties. What will they do?
Go to an astrologer.
Go to an astrologer. Okay. Let's say they're an American person who doesn't even know astrology. Like he's really frustrated. So what will he do? Where will he go? Drugs, I would give up. Get in control. Okay, different answers.
Whichever.
Okay. Sorry? I think somebody got the answer. Sorry, Lekha Mataji, please.
I was just saying that they would just keep on pursuing like other material aspects which will give them that adrenaline rush or like whatever that will give them that momentary relief.
Yeah, momentary relief.
Or they would, the other thing is they would say, why me? And start blaming the world.
No, they want peace of mind, Prabhu. They want peace of mind.
Okay.
So, that will cause more frustrations, right?
Yes.
The blaming will cause more frustrations. So one thing is, look for external things that will give you some peace of mind. So for example, you could go to a beautiful, natural, scenic place. And so this is an external situation where you feel that if I go to such a place, I'll get some peace. If I go to a place where there is no, disturbance, no loud noise, I just go be with nature. So this is based on the assumption that external things ultimately will give me inner peace. So this is from outside within is the assumption here. The other way of finding a solution for peace of mind is try to go deep within. So peaceful disposition internally. So remove from your mind that which causes us agitation. Like anything that causes agitation, try to remove that from your mind, go deeper within, and then try to achieve peace. This is another approach that people take. One is external, one is internal. But the highest solution is peace that comes with the conviction that Krishna is ultimately in control. Next time you can try this, like whenever a big hurdle or an obstacle comes, if you are really convinced that Krishna is ultimately in control, then immediately a sense of peace comes. That burden goes away. Has anybody experienced this? Yes, Lekha Mataji.
Oh, I just raised hand for has anyone experienced it?
Oh, you have experienced it, Mataji. Please share, please share.
Yeah, I think it's been in I've been in situations where I suffocate about a situation and I'm trying to control it and XYZ, but then I think we have discussed it even in Sangha, like the just focusing on the sadhana irrespective of how we feel, it actually, and just being in the devotees association, it inculcates a sense of like a sense of, okay, Krishna's taking care, and actually we will see that in hindsight what Krishna
Yes.
did was so much was actually way better than what we could have even thought of. And as these experiences keep happening, I think we mature over time, and then when we again get faced with like greater hurdles in life, we always remember that, okay, you know what, at XYZ situations, Krishna actually like took care of even the minutest details. So you don't have to worry, just stick to the process and it'll get better. It doesn't work
Amazing.
every time for me, but for most of the time it works.
Yeah. So thank you, Mataji. I mean, you nailed it actually. So the faith that you get and the peace that you get when you're absolutely convinced that Krishna is ultimately in control is the highest form of peace. So is there a Shastric quote or an evidence for this? So in Bhagavad Gita, there is this verse 529, which is called the peace formula. So it is Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Now the last two lines are important. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim. Shantim is peace. Achati. So Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna says that I am completely taking care of everybody. And one who understands this, that person will be very, very peaceful. You just have to have that faith that Krishna is ultimately in control. The moment we start thinking that I am in control, and I was just discussing on Saturday that whenever we do things, are we doing it to serve God or to become God? So to become God means you feel that you are in control. So if you feel that you are in control, you'll never be peaceful. You'll never be peaceful. But if you think that Krishna, if you're convinced that Krishna is in control, then you'll always be peaceful. So Arjuna, and this kind of peace you can have even in the midst of a war. So Arjuna was experiencing this type of peace even in the midst of war because he knew that he was doing it completely for Krishna and that Krishna is in control and he need not worry about anything. And immediately he was having that kind of peace. And even in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, because he knew that Krishna was in control, he was having that kind of peace. Anybody wants to share anything on this? Any reflections, thoughts?
Yeah, we are just discussing here that for Arjuna, Krishna himself was present, physically present, and then he's saying, "Go fight, and I'll protect you." All that. In spite of that, he had a lot of doubts.
Who
But
had
even
doubts?
Arjuna.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
questions at the end of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, he was convinced, and then he fought the war. But
Yes.
yeah, but that peace didn't come for him instantly, right?
Yes, yes, yes. That's why it's said, na tatviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So we have to keep questioning, and we have to keep increasing our faith with our, with our gurus, devotees, and so on, and then we will get answers. We will get that peace ultimately. But we should have the faith in the process, as Lekha Mataji also said. And it's a case by case situation. I don't want to give like a general answer that fits everybody. So I think we all know the answers in one sense. Nupur, you want to say something?
I just want to repeat CCP's versus Roji in addition to what you said. Like he mentioned this card acronym during New Year, and in that he mentioned the D was for devotion, and in that he mentioned the points he said. Like he said this statement that when you think like this, that I'm not all alone, struggling against all that opposes me externally and internally, when I try to become better version of myself. So thinking ourselves that I am part of divine, I'm part of Krishna. So he said we become peaceful when we get higher taste. And then the final thing that struck me was he said this line that God calms and cleanses our mind when we connect with him. So remembering these things, like seeing ourselves as the part of the bigger plan, as you said.
Seeing ourselves as part of the bigger plan. Yeah, beautiful. And Ritesh Prabhu has put on the chat, a living entity is made by the will of the Almighty, that he is most happy when placing himself in the condition of absolute dependence on the Lord. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for bringing that up. So is it okay to go to Krishna for something other than Krishna? That's the next question.
He had
And then,
raised. Haribo?
yeah, Haribol, yeah, please go ahead.
Sarisaki had raised her hands,
Oh, really? How come
but
I'm not seeing?
she lowered it, but
Oh, okay. Sorry, Sundarsaki, please go ahead.
Ruchi, actually,
go.
regarding the previous topic, I wanted to ask, how do you reconcile these two concepts? One is that Krishna gives you the highest peace, and when you go towards becoming a pure devotee, you actually go towards more anxiety and more distress for Krishna.
See, within that anxiety, even though externally it appears as anxiety, you actually have peace because you're developing more and more love for Krishna. It's not that like a material anxiety. It's actually a spiritual anxiety where, like Mother Yashoda, she was getting anxious that the milk is boiling over. But even though she was anxious, she knew within that the milk is boiling over. Oh, what will I do? Because I have to use that milk to serve Krishna. Because she was connecting that with Krishna, there was a sense of calm. And it's hard to understand this from a materialistic perspective, but so the anxieties that we take in the service of Krishna, actually in that anxiety you will find that peace. Like I've experienced this where suddenly you have to do some service and then there's so much anxiety and you're trying to serve some senior devotee, but because you're so connected with Krishna and his devotee, you will find that peace within. Next time, it's not a material anxiety where you're completely like, agitated within, but within you'll find that calmness also. Can anybody else has that experience or anything you want
I've
to share?
actually had that experience, Prabhuji. So yeah, I'm getting what you're saying. Yeah, I'm getting closer to what you're saying. Yeah.
Can you give that example, Sundarisaki? I'm struggling to find a proper example in my life. I mean, I remember one case, but I want to hear from you where you also, if you can share
This
it.
is not, this is not me exactly, but it's my father. He has shared something similar. Somebody, Maharaj has come and he's given him like 3 minutes to get the food ready, and he's just like running around, and he just gives him those dosas within 3 minutes. He goes like all around the hospital and gets that dosa, that hot steaming dosa on his plate, and yeah, I mean, I've seen that piece, that anxiety, but that eventual deep peace, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if I explained it very well. Yeah.
Yes, no. That's exactly what I was also experiencing. So that anxiety is there, but along with that, you will immediately experience peace also. Like the past time that I very clearly remember is when Maharaj had to give this Fox News interview in Seattle, and we got lost on the way, and we were getting late, and I was in so much anxiety because it was a live program, and we had to get Maharaj by 7:45 a.m. and it was already 7:20, and we were completely lost. We were 20 minutes away from that place, and we had parked the car somewhere. We were just roaming around, me, Madhav Chandra Prabhu, and Maharaj. That's it. It's just the three of us, and there was so much anxiety. And then at that time, I really prayed to Krishna like I'd never done in my life, and I was not like I mean, even now I was a very new devotee, but somehow immediately at that time, randomly, there was a push within me that took me to the reception of a hotel. And I would never do such a thing otherwise, and I went to that receptionist, and then I asked, where is this particular Fox News place? And then he said it's 20 minutes away from that particular place. And then, first of all, how would that person knew? Because apparently they had just moved a few days ago. This the news channel place had moved to a different location only a few days ago. That's why Google Maps and other things were showing the wrong location. And then when I came out, it's not like New York where you get taxis everywhere. There was one yellow cab guy right outside. And then I asked him, do you know where it is? And then he said, yes, I know exactly where it is. Just sit inside. And then we sat inside, and he took us directly to that place. He didn't even ask us for money, actually, which is also amazing. But and Maharaj went in at exactly 7:35 inside. And it was like, so that anxiety was there, but there was it was coupled with peace, like the example that you gave. So, yeah.
Mhm.
I
Thank you.
don't know if
Thank you.
that
Guru. No, it does. It does. It does. It definitely does.
Thank you. Someone else wanted to say something? Okay, it's already over 10, so I'll just quickly finish in 5 minutes. So is it okay to go to Krishna for something other than Krishna? So this is what I think Nitya or maybe Lekha Mataji, one of you are asking. So practicing bhakti to get something from bhakti. So that is not ideal, but it is okay to do that at the beginning stages. It is okay to go to Krishna for something other than Krishna. And you should, because if you keep doing that, as we evolve, we understand that Krishna's greatest gift is Krishna himself. Krishna's greatest gift is not something that Krishna gives. Krishna's greatest gift is Krishna himself. So this brings back to the question that I asked, what motivates Prahlad Maharaj to go through all those challenges? Because he wanted Krishna himself. He didn't want anything from Krishna. He wanted Krishna himself, and he got it. At every obstacle, at every hurdle, he experienced Krishna. He got Krishna, So the best gift that Krishna can give is Krishna himself. But we want some other gift from Krishna. So we go to Krishna not because what he provides us, but for who he is. Why do we go to Krishna? Because for who he is. Krishna is that compassionate, loving, caring individual. And I want Krishna because of who he is, not because of what he is going to give me. The best thing we can offer, so what can we offer to Krishna? So what can we offer to Krishna? The best thing that we can offer to Krishna is ourselves. And the best thing that Krishna can offer to us is Krishna himself. So we should learn to offer our consciousness to Krishna. So praner, arter, diya, vacha is mentioned. So praner is giving our whole life for Krishna. If you cannot do that, give your wealth for Krishna. If you cannot do that, give your intelligence for Krishna. If you cannot even do that, just at least give your words for Krishna. So, and then of course, this is a theme that comes repeatedly in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I wanted to bring this up because this particular pastime is clearly depicts this, that devotion can invert all hierarchies. So this is an example of father and son. The social hierarchy says that the father is, higher than the son, but devotion in this particular case inverts that hierarchy. This is Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, and the husband and wife also we know, the Yagnik Brahmanas and their wives. Guru disciple also we know, Shukracharya and Bali Maharaj. A demigod and demon, Vitrasura and Indra. Brahmana Kshatriya is our Brahmana Kshatriya is Ambarish Maharaj and Durvas Muni. And so the lesson that we learn through this devotion can invert all hierarchies is that, yes, our dharma is important. Our dharma, our social hierarchy is important. But more important than that is the paradharma. Paradharma is actually most important. And that could sometimes invert the hierarchies also. So that is the point that I wanted to make. And with that, I wanted to stop today's discussion. Sorry, I went over by 10 minutes. Please forgive me. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyasya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha ananta koti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any final comments or thoughts before we end? I'll stop there. Krishna Prabhu, please go ahead.
No, it was a fantastic discussion, Prabhu. I really enjoyed it, and also, you know, it made us realize that Krishna's biggest gift to us is Krishna himself, and our biggest offering to Krishna is ourselves and our consciousness. That's a very valuable point to remember, Prabhu. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Prabhu. We'll continue this discussion again next week, dear devotee. Sorry, go ahead, Krishna Prabhu. Anything else?
Prayers for Lekha Mataji. You know, wish you all.
Yes, I was just going to. So let's take maybe 30 seconds and really pray for Lekha Mataji, and that she finds a job, because she's in some anxiety because she has only 60 days to find another job. She's very qualified. She has a master's from Carnegie Mellon. So, but still, let's really pray to Krishna that, you know, he does the best for her. Thank you, dear devotees. Yeah.
Thank you very
Kamesha,
much. And thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
So be have the faith, Krishna, faith in Krishna, Lekha Mataji, because yeah, the faith energizes. So have that faith in Krishna, and you'll
Yes.
see amazing things happen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
keep
you.
talking to Krishna. Keep talking to your deities, like how so sweetly you always do. So please, and he will be there for you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Definitely
Nitya also wants to say something.
Yeah, this is all you know, like a temporary stoppages. I think something you know, sweet and nice is just around the corner for you. So let's have that faith, and
Thank you.
yeah, definitely nicer is in the works.
Thank you.
Kamesha Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, just discussing, you know, what can we go to Krishna for something other than Krishna? But you already only once, like, I remember that Draupadi is like, she never prayed for any material things. Yes. Only one time she asked her to protect her in Vitas Sabha. She asked her for protecting. That there's only one time. I mean, like, she asked her for material, and second time, of course, like during that Ajnatavasa, Aranyavasa, Akshayapatra cases. So in emergency, definitely we can take pray for Krishna, just like what you have done during that interview, like when you are missing to reach that place. So like that, definitely in emergency, devotees can pray Krishna, and to facilitate that, Rupa Goswami, like, you know, he framed that Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So in that, while telling that verse in our Bhakti Sastra Kush, it was mentioned that So there is some wording where it facilitates in emergency devotees can pray. Even if they pray for that, they will not become, their devotion will not come to a lower grade. What I would like to recollect, I'm recollecting this point. That's all.
Yeah, wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us that it's okay to go to Krishna. It's not that we have become so advanced that we should not go to Krishna for material things. Yeah, it's definitely okay to go to Krishna for that. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, connection with Krishna is still maintained. Yeah.
Even
Thank
just
you,
now,
Prabhu.
wait for Lekha to get a job. So
Yes,
that-
exactly. Right.
Yes, yes.
that is
No,
awesome.
but in this case, we are all praying for Lekha. She's
all
not
that.
praying for herself. Yeah, but still. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Totally okay.
So totally okay, totally. Soham Prabhu. Soham
Krishna
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Hare,
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, what Prabhu, you wanted my opinion?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't hear anything. Any thoughts on the discussion?
It was
Yeah.
amazing, Prabhuji. Yeah, like I think the point you said, like going to Krishna for Krishna, that really struck me, and like yeah, everything was amazing. My parents were also listening; they also loved it.
Oh, Krishna. I seek their blessings also. But if I've spoken anything wrong, please
No,
take
Prabhu.
forgiveness, Mataji Prabhu. Okay.
Everything is so
So we enjoyed the class after a
great
long time.
conversation.
Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let's
Hare
end now.
Krishna.
Hare Bol.